Hi, everybody. Welcome. We are here for a special session of the Monday Mindset because not too long ago, we had our Navigating Meltdowns, Tantrums, and Power Struggles webinar. And in that webinar, we discussed a really important concept, which for some people, it was the first time they'd heard it. We were talking about the power of emotion coaching. And when you are able to coach kids through their big emotions and help them really make sense of them, and also have really good tools and strategies for being able to move through them themselves, whether that's to calm down or to kind of identify, for the older kids, identify what triggered them, maybe even getting ahead of some of those triggers, and seeing if there's a message behind that emotion that they can then move forward with, right? So they don't get stuck in it. Those are skills that we all like to have as well. So welcome to the Monday Mindset training on emotion coaching kids. Now, I'm not going to be able to give you all the tips and strategies you'll need for all the ways that you might need to emotion coach your kids, but I can give you a couple of powerful ways that you can start to get the ball rolling or improve your existing emotion coaching practices. Okay. So if you're here and ready to learn about emotion coaching, just do me a favor and put the word ready into the comments and the chat so I know that you're here, and maybe the ages of your kids and the city that you're tuning in from, just so we can connect up and get to know you more. Okay, so for me, I would write ready, and I would write 20, 22, and 26-year-olds, stepkids, and then I also have a bonus 7-year-old in my household right now. So go ahead and write that in there. And I am in the San Francisco Bay Area. So just if you're joining in, just make sure you write that as well into comments so we can know that you're here and you're ready and we're set to go. Now, why emotion coach kids? Why not just help them calm down and that's it? It's a really good question. Well, what we found in the research is that when parents model strategies of how to navigate those big emotions, then they are able to start internalizing those strategies and really be better at navigating them. But more importantly, they're more resilient. They have better friendships. They do better in school. They're less prone to anxiety and depression in adolescence and make better choices in their teenage years. And if we trace it back, there are many factors for resilience and many factors for these sort of thriving measures. Yeah. But one of the most important ones is that there was a warm, supportive, and demanding adult in the child's life that emotion coached them. Because if you're not able to handle your emotions, could you maybe lose a friend or have a hard time making friends? Yeah. If you're not very good at navigating or moving through your emotions or making sense of them, could it be hard for you to focus on your schoolwork because you're still stuck in your emotion? Yeah, like maybe you're angry at your sibling and you can't get over the conflict and it's just eating away at you, then you don't get any homework done, for example. So there's a lot of good reasons to emotion coach. Now, I wonder if you're here, if we've got Betsy Freeman, who's ready, yes, from Portland, Oregon, with your 4-year-old son. What do you hope your child can get out of emotion coaching? What do you hope your 4-year-old son, for example, Betsy, would get out of you becoming a really good emotion coach? What's something that he might get on the other side of that? Something that right away comes to your mind. I want you to always have a sense of where you're going, keeping the end in mind, as Stephen Covey would say, author of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So go ahead and put in the chat, in the comments, what is the reason why, like, what do you think that your child will get out of you becoming a great emotion coach? And then we're going to dive right in. Okay. So go ahead and share that. So I know that you're playing along with me here and you've really got that goal in mind, like really tuning into what your child could get, whether it's those better friendships, better academic success, maybe having their own tools over time. What is it that stands out to you that you really want your child to have? Okay. So we've got a big job. I always say the job description is this long. The stakes of the outcome of your job are this high. but the training for this job of parenting and raising resilient humans is almost non-existent. So why wouldn't we lean in and say, wait a minute, there are skills to learn here, and that's normal. It's not because you don't have what it takes or you're not naturally good at parenting. It's because this is a very highly skilled position you're in, and it requires so much of you. And your big heart is involved as well in making sure your child has great outcomes. So share with me in the comments, what is something that you would love your children to have? Even if you're watching the replay, I want you to do it too, okay? All right. Okay, so how do we emotion coach kids? Let's see. Well, the first thing you should know is that what you do is so much more important than what you say. So even though I'm going to give you some really great communication scripts and idea suggestions of the actual words you can say, which by the way, parents ask me for all the time. They're like, okay, I get it, Vanessa, be calm and coach them, but what does that actually sound like? So we're going to roll through that today. But what I want you to know is that the most important thing you can do is realize that what you do, like your body language, your tone, how you coach yourself through your own emotions, is going to speak volumes and so much louder than what you tell your kid to do. Because how many of you have told your kid to take 3 deep breaths? Now take 3 deep breaths, breathe, honey, and it backfires. Like, don't tell me what to do. You know, I don't want to. I don't want to be told what to do. I was just at Nia House Learning Center where I started out my teaching career, and I was just having flashbacks to so many memories on that yard of kids not wanting to do the thing that I asked them to do. I was telling them to do, right? Go, why don't you go take a break over there? I don't want to take a break, right? But instead showing them, saying like, why don't we go take a break over here together and have a little seat and see if we can't breathe through this. Oh, that feels good. And they're still mad. And you're like, it's okay. You could be mad. I'm going to breathe. Right? That role modeling is so powerful. So that's the first thing I want you to know. What you show them speaks so much louder than what you tell them. Sometimes it can have 10 to 100 times more of an impression and a stronger memory than telling using just words or verbal direction alone, showing. It's really powerful. So show more than you tell. And part of that is that role modeling that I'm talking about. So I'm going to go ahead and pop this up so you can see. One thing that a lot of parents get into when they're looking at that emotion coaching piece and the role modeling is they're like, well, I'm trying to show how to be calm, but my child is not taking it in, right? And that's because a lot of meltdowns, and this is part of and tantrums and big upsets. This is part of the Navigating Meltdowns webinar we just had. Just a little review for those of you who are back. And if it's new to you, don't worry, I'll explain a little bit. But basically, if we were to have a model of the brain in your hand, the inside where your thumb would tuck in, if you were to tuck it in like this picture here, that would be your emotional alarm center. And then you would fold your fingers over it, and that would be your cortex, your thinking part of your brain, where your memories are stored and everything. But then the front part is sort of the wise leader of your brain called the prefrontal cortex. So you can look at it something like this, okay? And once a child or you have a big emotion, what happens is you sort of flip your lid. And it's not literally flipping your lid. Obviously, your head doesn't open up and pop off. But what does happen is that part of your brain gets less nutrition, has less sort of electromagnetic activity, right? Less firing of the neurons. And when it does fire, it's sort of like fireworks instead of smoothly running currents. And so the part of your brain that's supposed to be making good decisions, thinking about consequences, maybe making plans, like thinking through choices and everything, is kind of flipped and out to lunch. And the alarm center takes over and is acting on that instinct of fight, flight, or freeze. Well, until we get the lid back on and that prefrontal cortex, that wise leader, back online where things are running smoothly, where the brainstem, the limbic system, the emotional system, and the thinking part of your brain are working together again, an integrated brain that's regulating well, it's going to be really challenging to reason through things, for example. How many of you have tried to offer some logic to a child saying, well, the reason why we have to wait is because there are 10 people in front of us, but your child's already screaming and they won't hear it. But I want to go now. And you're just like, oh my gosh, my little monster. Well, literally, the reason why we think of things like monster or dragon or whatever is because we are kind of back into an older part of our nervous system that takes over and acts on instinct and doesn't have a sense of time, doesn't have patience, doesn't have a sense of consequence, right? And so they can't even take in that there's 10 more people. They're so upset. And so that's when we want to get that lid back on. Okay. So we call act one of a meltdown, tantrum, or power struggle when the lid is all the way off. That's when it's time to actually empathize, soothe, calm down, and start the emotion coaching process. Okay. And because we have things called mirror neurons, it means that whatever we're modeling in front of them, they're going to mirror back. And we also might get triggered by their upset and start to model them, start to reflect them back and mirror them back. So we have to be really thoughtful of like, oh, am I doing the thing I'm asking for? Am I going calm down? Or am I going, oh, we should probably calm down, and like bringing your voice down, bringing your expression down, your body language down, right? Down regulating, soothing yourself. Maybe taking a breath, pausing, slowing down, right? Not letting things escalate. So let's get into the emotion coaching piece, right? Like, how do we start that process? So the first thing, it says right here is to empathize, soothe, and calm down, but how? And that's the new piece I'm sharing with you today. Now, when I share this with you, I want you to also know that you can have your own copy of this handout that I'm about to put up on the screen, okay? Oops, let's see, it looks like this. So when in act one, you want to coach them emotionally, right? So here we have a child who's upset. Clearly they've shut down. They're even putting hands on their kidneys, which means for many of us, we know that like stress can be kind of held in the kidney area. That's why I get our hands on our hips and things like that, or hold our lower back when we don't feel supported. Well, here we can role model tuning into your body, saying, "Ooh, I'm noticing my shoulders are tense, my hands are in fists, and my voice is getting louder." This is exactly what you hope your child will start to do, is notice their body and their tells that their lid is off, and that their brain, whatever their thinking brain is misfiring and saying, I need another one, I need another one, I need another one, or it's your fault, or you're the worst, right? Whatever it is, those are angry things. There's also sad things and scary things like that spider's going to get me. Oh no, the spider's going to get me, right? They're looping, they're stuck. And if they can snap out of it and notice, oh, I'm actually shaking right now, I'm shaking, or my shoulders are tense, or I have fists for hands, then they can start to have a little bit more self-awareness that an emotion is starting to run the show and their lid is flipped. Then you can name your emotion, saying, I think I'm feeling frustrated and angry. Really good, like it's called Name It to Tame It from Dr. Daniel Siegel, who also came up with the brain in the palm of the hand. A lot of people know that there's some wisdom in being able to name the state you're in, whether it's I'm tired, I'm overwhelmed, I'm hungry, I'm lonely, or an emotion that's not so physiological. Maybe it's I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm scared, right? In this case, I'm frustrated and angry. And then you find a way to validate but not indulge the emotion. So you're not going to like pour fuel in the fire and be like, that's right, I should be angry. These kids need to respect me. They better listen to me better, or else, they deserve to be punished. Like you could just see yourself going where you don't really necessarily want to go. Now you can vent to a friend that way or go yell at the wall that way if you need to. But if you do that to your kids, it's only going to escalate things, right? So I'm not saying that where my mind was going is necessarily not a good idea ever, but you don't necessarily want to indulge it, but you could validate it with some empathy, some self-empathy, some self-compassion. This is what, a lot of teachers who want to help people kind of become more masterful of their own emotions will say, add awareness and compassion. Yeah. So the compassion is, makes sense. I feel frustrated right now. I keep saying the same thing over and over, and no one is listening to me. No wonder I'm frustrated. Now, remember, again, this is not indulging it and feeding it. It's just saying, I get why I feel this way. There's something about it that makes sense. It doesn't have to make complete sense, but there's something about it that makes sense. Friends, this is a great way to not go down the road of being upset that you have a strong emotion. Because guess what? Then you're upset that you have a strong emotion. And then you're upset. And it just sort of snowballs. How many of you have judged yourself for getting angry, or judged yourself for being sad, judged yourself for being scared, and we're hard on yourself? So this is getting away from being hard on yourself, but it's also not indulging in it. We're finding a middle ground, which is just a simple validation and some self-compassion. One thing that makes sense about it. And then once you realize that, this is, the awareness is there, my body is tense, I'm frustrated and angry, and it makes sense that I got here. And then this is where you shift things. And that's where you said, how can I put my lid back on? If you have that language in your household, like my clients do, they teach it to their kids, then they start to use it. And they're like, how can I put my lid back on? If you don't, not there yet, no problem. You might just say, I'm going to just take a few 4 square breaths, or whatever kind of tool you're using, whether it's I'm going to put my hands in my pockets and walk away before I lose control, or I'm going to call my friend who I know can handle hearing about this right now. I mean, there's so many. That's another training. Okay. I have a 6-day training in December just on soothing strategies for that reason. There's so many. I want each of you to find your best one, but we'll get to that. Okay. In December. But for right now, just know, pick something and do it. Friends, pick something and do it. Even if you're the only one in the room who's doing it, you've got your partner upset, you've got your 2 kids upset, or your 1 kid or whatever, and you're the only one who's kind of got your eyes open with awareness and some compassion, realizing something needs to shift here, and then do it. Even if you look funny. I have been in front of a classroom of 24 totally unruly kids, hot day, tired, thirsty, something funny just happened. They're supposed to be sitting quietly in circle and they're all messing around, right? And I literally sat there and I said, and I tried to remind them, didn't work. Tried ringing the bell. Nobody listened to it. I had a kid ring the bell. No one listened to it. And I started to, you guessed it, flip my lid. So I said, what am I going to do here? Right. And I started to go into those stories we tell ourselves of, I'm not good at this, or these kids are too crazy, or whatever. Right. And then I stopped myself and I said, hold on, wait a minute. I'm going to emotion coach. I'm going to model. I'm going to be an emotional role model. I'm going to emotion coach myself right now. And I said, oh, it's been such a hot day. We're all just coming in from outside. I think it'd feel really good to take a few deep breaths. And I closed my eyes and I said, anyone who wants to close your eyes with me, please do. And there were a few kids in the room who were clearly overwhelmed by the chaos, and they started to tune into me. I put my hand up. I said, my lid's off. I want to put my lid on. I'm going to do it with some 4 square breaths. So I put up a hand and I breathed in for 4, held for 4, breathed out for 4, and held for 4. And then I peeked, and because it got a little bit quieter, and like a couple more kids were just watching. So another kid was doing it in his hand, so I started, okay, I'm gonna take another 4 square breath. That felt great. I did it. And again, it got a little quieter. A few more kids started to do it. A few more kids started to look at their friends who they were just, getting to chat with them, but are now going like this, and they're wondering what's going on. By the 3rd or 4th breath, over half the kids were doing it and the other half were watching. Because never had they ever, in a very long time, had they seen a teacher close their eyes and do this thing in the middle where it wasn't a lesson, in the middle of man. And that role modeling really worked. It sort of gave them, like, my nervous system as an example of how we might handle this hot, sweaty, dysregulated, chaotic moment together. And then we were able to roll into what was next. Role modeling works. It doesn't work every time, but it works over time. Okay. That's a nice ring to it. I'll say it again. It doesn't work every time, but it works over time. Yeah. So coming back to the emotion coaching. So you describe the shift. You say, I feel more calm after slowing down to breathe. My brain is thinking better. I even like to throw in, I think that we're all standing in the sun and It's hard to listen when we're all so hot, overheated like this. Why don't we find some shade and cool down? Like you start to get your wits about you around problem solving. You and your kids will come up with better ideas. Yeah. Also, you're not giving them the other end of the rope to tug in a tug of war. No way. You're not giving it to them in that moment. True? Yeah. Oh, lots of thumbs up and hearts and everything coming through. Thank you, y'all. If you haven't introduced yourself yet, like Betsy did, and if you haven't let me know that you're ready to become a great emotion coach, go ahead and throw it in the comments so I can know who's here. And say hello. And I love the statement, I'm ready to try again. So you're not saying this is some magic wand, like, wow, I feel so much better. Now I can do anything. It's sort of just, I feel better. I'm thinking a little better and I'm ready to try again. Sweetie, I know you needed something, but you started to yell and it was hard to hear your voice. So this is when you can start like giving some feedback and maybe helping them when the lids are coming back on, at least halfway. Yeah. Okay. Now, what do you do if it's if you want to actually directly coach your child? So same steps. Sweetie, I'm noticing that your face is red and your mouth is frowning and your voice is getting louder. So first of all, this is a great way to let your child know that you're paying attention. And also that maybe you're paying attention to something else than what their angry or sad or scared brain is saying over and over again, right? So they might be saying, this isn't fair, or something. And you're like, sweetie, I see your cheeks are so red. And I'm hearing you say, this isn't fair over and over again. And your voice is getting louder. It looks like you're feeling really angry about this. That fairness is really important to you. And you're maybe frustrated and angry right now. Did I get that right? It's just a way into like tuning in. So they're like, okay, maybe you do know what I'm feeling right now. Because without that, it's really hard for them to take in our advice about what will help them. As a matter of fact, part of why we have mirror neurons is so that we can, in why some kids even get into sort of like a revenge phase where they want you to feel their pain. It's because they're more confident in our advice when we are either empathizing really well, like I see it, I see the problem, I see how you're feeling right now, or we feel that way too. Well, which is more comfortable for us? Should we let them provoke us till we're just as angry as they are? We can. And then we'll know something more about what to do with that anger because we're actually feeling it too. Or we can get ahead of it and empathize with it without actually completely taking it on and getting extra angry or extra sad or extra scared with them. Oh, hey, Jessica is so ready. Hey, Jessica. She's one of my smart, big-hearted parents who works with me. And you've got your 3 kiddos. Yes, yes, yes. From the Chicago, Illinois area. So good to have you here, Jessica. And let us know what you've done in this emotion coaching realm in our work together, Jessica, because you've made some big strides in this area. I know you consider yourself a love warrior because you choose that love over fear over and over and over again. And that's something that I just saw in the core of you when we first met, Jessica, and it's alive and well these days. So maybe share a tip or two in the chat if there's something that stands out to you, Jessica, from what we've worked on and you're like, yeah, do that. That works. And what I want to say is that when you're in this emotion coaching moment, sometimes you only get through step 1 and 2, and they don't want to hear an advice about how to calm down. You might actually need to give them some space for them to figure it out, especially if you haven't already filled up their emotional self-regulation toolbox, which is something I do with my clients, and you can do with your kids too. Or if you don't have like a positive timeout calm down corner for them to go to, where they've already like pre-selected activities to calm down, that's okay. Although that's ideal. And we usually create that in our emotional mastery weekend in the immersion program. So what you can do though, is you can at least help them tune into their body and raise that awareness, empathize with them, and validate them, right? So they can name the emotion a bit and they can start to get a sense of you see me, you're connected with what's going on here. And then that might be where you shift to, let's do this together, right? Like, let's try taking some breaths. Let's try finding some shade, like my example, like, or actually we're too hot here. And even when you're in the shade and they have a moment to, I don't know, look at some leaves under the tree, I'm thinking of your 4-year-old Betsy, you know, redirecting attention is one of the calm down strategies. So redirecting to something else. How many red leaves can we find, guys? And then come back to the original thing. You can describe the shift and be like, wow, your cheeks are a lot less red. I think you finally cooled down. And I even saw you smile when you found a really red leaf. Seems like you're feeling better, and it was good to take a break from the problem, for example, right? Or good to take a break from the hot sun in the game. Because wouldn't you love your kid to notice for themselves when they're in kindergarten, first grade and older? I'm thinking of your 4-year-old too, Jessica, it's right around the corner, or even in preschool, being able to say, I'm too hot, I should go in the shade. Maybe if I look at the beautiful whatever, or look for little stones or something, it'll give me something to do while I'm cooling down. Like they can start to actually come up with these strategies when we have modeled them for them, just like we teach them how to do things like wipe their own butt. Like it's just a skill. And if we don't make that invisible skill more visible by talking about it, by sharing it, by coaching them, it can sometimes feel like a mystery how to help our kids calm down and how to emotion coach them. Yeah. That's why I break it down into these steps. So who would love to have a copy of this? Now I know, Jessica, you already have it in your resources document. But if you're here and you'd like a copy of this handout, which is about coaching them emotionally, all you need to do is take our parent discovery quiz. And our parent discovery quiz, which all of my clients and all of the folks who end up having a free session with me after a webinar have taken. I've had over 200 people take it in the last year. What it does is it helps you to get a sense of like, okay, what are the areas that I'm so strong in that I could easily teach them to my kids? Maybe it's how to self-motivate without having to think about consequences or rewards. Or maybe it's about how to show appreciation for other people in the family. Maybe it's how to get that morning routine down, some areas of strength. Or maybe some of those are areas of challenge and they're things that you're still learning. So the quiz will help you to sort of sort that out. And from there, you can also apply for a strategy breakthrough session where we'll take your quiz results, we'll figure out what strengths we're building off of, and I'll give you some suggestions for how you can start to fill in some of those gaps, okay? And be able to fill up your toolbox with tools like emotion coaching and other things. And it will be a chance for us to see if it's a good fit to work together, but there's no obligation. And I know for Jessica, our session, I mean, I can't even believe it was only about 30 minutes we ended up doing, Jessica. Like you still can remember it today, I know, because we had such a big breakthrough around the essence of your child and feeling very tuned into her and to them. And I just love that we could get so much out of just that first session, so much that you're like, how do I work with you, Vanessa? But it doesn't, again, no pressure. It doesn't have to go that way, but it could just be that springboard that you need to feel confident about, moving into your next phase of learning as a parent, because we have to constantly keep up with our kids, don't we? Life throws curveballs, and kids also just keep growing and their needs keep changing. One of the number one reasons why I end up with folks in my programs and in my private practice is because they have some tools and strategies that worked, but then their kids kind of grew out of them and now they're trying to play catch up. And there might be a couple of areas that have always been challenging and now it's getting harder because it's many, many years into the parent-child relationship and it hasn't been addressed and it just keeps happening, right? Some common things are like, parents who will like lose their temper when their child doesn't listen and really feel bad about how they overreact, or will like give up on expectations that they know are healthy, right? So feeling like you have to choose between being supportive and demanding. Well, they come into the work to figure out how to be both, for example. Yeah. Also, again, like all of a sudden you have a child who was sweet as a toddler and now is a teenager and is trying to run the show, and it's like a whole new power thing and you're trying to figure that out. And it's one of the things you did before where you would sing and make it fun just aren't working. They're looking at you like, what are you doing? You're like, uh-oh, what do I do now? So that feeling that drops in. So it's always great to come to these kinds of trainings. We have them, weekly on Mondays with some tips. And also, if you'd like to explore going further with this, really filling up your own toolbox, feeling prepared for all the years ahead, as well as all the, filling in the gaps from the years behind. The quiz and the free session are a great place to start. Okay, so to recap for the emotion coaching tips for today, tune into your body, name the emotion, do your best to validate it, choose a way to shift it so you can move through it. It's not to stuff it down or throw it out, it's just to move through it, and then share how that strategy worked and that you're ready to try again. And then all this magic happens. You get to do things like problem solve together. Like I know, Jessica, you guys worked on a routine chart that's so sweet. Maybe I can even share it, Jessica. It's so special. We're able to get onto the same side of what is in our night routine. And suddenly you're having these great conversations about what else can we add, right? I'm going to go ahead and share it, Jessica, since I had your permission from before. And since you're here, it's just fun to brag about what you've been up to. Look at this great chart that they made just with what was laying around, right? And your daughter was like, oh, we need to add this too. We need to add that. Your 4-year-old. I mean, what a great step towards independence and motivation from within and feeling like you're on the same team. I just love it. I love how parents and kids can get on board with each other. It's so powerful. And that's what's on the other side of emotion coaching, is that because if the emotions are running the show, forget about it. I'm serious. Like if you can't get a hold of the emotional piece, it's going to be really hard to set limits, run routines, navigate conflicts, all that. But if you can get this emotion piece in place, it's really powerful. So I'd love to hear from Betsy and Jessica and anybody else who's listening to the replay. What's one thing you got out of this? And we also have someone here on Zoom that I missed earlier. Let me see who it is. Hello. Who is it? Let's see. Marnie. Hi, Marnie. Welcome. Glad you're here. I'll share the link to you too. So just go ahead and take that quiz to get to the other side of that question of what is it that, what are my strengths and what are some areas that I could really use a breakthrough? And then go ahead and apply for a breakthrough session, just like Jessica did many, many months ago. And she's experiencing a whole new kind of parenting than she did many months ago. Jessica's probably even hard to remember what it was like. So go ahead and head over to that, and I'll see you on the other side of it. When you fill in the quiz, there's a spot where you can say yes, that you would like to have this one-page guide on, that's your little cheat sheet for emotion coaching. And then there's a place for you to apply for a session. And I have sessions open for this whole over this whole next 7 days or so. I have about 8 spots open, first come, first serve. So go ahead and check that out and see what fits for your schedule. Okay. All right. And I'll see you then. Otherwise, lots of love to you all. You should know that there's a really cool training coming up in about a week with Risa Gall. She is someone who helps women who are in relationship who are just not sure whether or not they should stay or if they should go. And it's just that question that's nagging at them that makes it hard for them to be present in their relationships and with their own wants, needs, and desires. And she has a great training coming up that's called, let's see, I'll pull it up here, 5 Keys to Know When It's Time to Go. And I do have a link that you can register for free, okay? So if this is something that you would love to take a look at, or somebody who needs some support with this, I'll put the link in the comments so that you can pass it along and maybe be somebody's buddy, like the light in the dark because Risa is so good at helping people get clear, especially women get clear on whether they should stay or they should go. And it really comes down to it could be either answer, but getting off the fence so you're not straddling the fence of wondering. Okay. All right. Wonderful. You're welcome, Betsy. So glad you like the strategies and you're excited to try them. Marnie, if there's anything you want me to know before you go, or one thing that stood out from this training on emotion coaching, these tips, let me know before we wrap up. And just want to let you know that I see you, I hear you, I feel you, and I believe in you. You totally got this. And I want you to even like brush off something off your shoulder right now and give yourself a little, I got this. That's how we close every session with my immersion group and flash up a heart to you. I want you to feel that love coming to you, knowing that your big heart is full of love. It must be. And I believe that the love that parents have for their children and caregivers have for the kids in their lives is one of the most powerful forces on our planet and maybe even in the universe. And that when we let that love flow freely, unobstructed, not having these tantrums and power struggles and, all these conflicts, less and less and less, more and more cooperation, more and more teamwork, more and more feeling of the same page, that love gets to flow freely and there's just the sky is the limit. And those kids get to have that trusted adult that emotion coaches them so they can have those friendships and those academic success and less anxiety, less depression, more thriving. And you're a part of that today. So thank you. And congratulations for making this time and space for this. And we'll see you next time. Okay. Lots of love to you all. Bye for now.